Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of All Access. I come to you with a very weird look today. I don't know how I feel about it, but and I've been gone for a couple of weeks. So long story short, let me catch you up on what happened. My whole family ended up getting COVID at the same time. I had to rush to help them, and on the way there, I ended up catching the flu, the good old-fashioned flu, H3N2, and it was far worse than COVID. I've had COVID, and this thing was 10,000 times worse. Anyhow, so I was really down, and so when I came to myself, I had this goofy-looking facial hair situation going on. I'm gonna wear it for a couple more days, and then I'll get rid of it. But so it is what it is. So so now I look kind of silly, but this is what I have today. There's a lot to catch up on. There's a lot happening in the markets. There's a lot happening at the macro scale. There's a lot happening in the Avalanche universe. So let's get down into it, and let me get my notes up here so that there's some structure to our conversation. So the very first thing, of course, that we should talk about are some misconceptions. In a down market, there is going to be a lot of people who run FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt attacks on communities. Our community is young. It hasn't been battle tested. It has not seen any market downturns before. I've seen this multiple times. I was there for the Mt. Gox crash when Bitcoin went from 1,200 down to whatever it was, 200. I was there for Ethereum's demise from $1,200 down to $83. So that all happened in the past, and our community hasn't lived through one of these things, and we're going through the worst of it even as we speak. And so at a time like this, the more experienced traders will try to spook communities that are not time tested, and you're seeing this with a variety of attacks, and in fact, in the most insidious of ways, in the silliest of ways. I want to get to it in a second and talk a little bit about it. So over the last week, there was a lot of FUD, and I cannot believe it was as stupid as I heard things like Emin ended up printing a lot of AVAX, and it's all sitting in his personal account. If I could print AVAX, I would. I would print a crap ton of AVAX. No, I wouldn't actually. I don't think I would print it and then sell it and disappear. That's just not me. I didn't sell at 150, and so here I am, and I'm in this for life, and I'm in this for a good time to come, and I'm here to build things. So first of all, there's that. Second, I don't have the ability to mint AVAX. Nobody does. Okay, this is a precious, scarce resource. Repeat after me. It is algorithmically limited. It has been since day one. AVAX is most people say AVAX. I think I'm one of the few people who says AVAX. We started out as Avalabs, and then the X got added later. But anyway, AVAX is a hard-capped asset. There can only be 720 million. Someday, over a beer or something, or when I have a beer instead of tea, I will talk to you guys about that number. Obviously, the fact that it's divisible by 60, number that's very, very important, is an important factor in how we picked it. But there can only be 720 million AVAX. It's guaranteed by code. It's not subject to change. And so let me show you this. It's very, very simple to check this. You don't need me. You can just bring this thing up, and there is something here that's supply cap, and it says 720 times units.mega AVAX. So that's like a million. And even on this front, I got skittish people writing to me saying, why isn't it maximum supply cap? Why is it not maximum supply cap? Because minimum supply cap doesn't make sense. And if there can be no minimum to something, I wouldn't even want to. It's redundant. It's a supply cap. It's the limit. That's the number, 720 million. Okay, and it's there in the code. And not only is it there in the code, but let's see. I don't want to just randomly type things into my browser here. But as of today, if you go to CoinMarketCap, it's there also. Okay, so So it is what it is. People were very freaked out that a centralized website managed by humans was not showing a number. If you're going to get spooked by this, if you're going to get fudded by this, I don't know what to do to you or say to you. I do need to do my job, and which I think is to educate people about the reality on the ground, and the reality on the ground is exactly what I just showed you. It's algorithmically limited to 720 million. But it's actually better than that because all AVAX fees are burned. So this is different from Ethereum. Ethereum started doing this after we came on board and showed the world how much stronger tokenomics are when you burn your fees. And they fix actually a bunch of game theoretic problems as well. A lot of the problems when it comes to proof of work chains happen from the fact that miners are given the entirety of the fees. And we never did that in Avalanche. We burn all of our fees. So the supply cap of 720 million will never be reached, actually. So we can talk about that, what that means, especially with more as more subnets come on board. One of the questions I get asked is, well, what happens when 720 million run out? By the time that runs out, there will be so many other subnets that the validators will be incentivized by subnet rewards to validate the main chain. So that's the most common question I get. I'm super happy to expand on this, but there's so much to talk about today. Don't want to get into it right now. But the 720 million AVAX situation, I don't know how many times I need to spend. I need to repeat this. It's there in the code. Go check it for yourself. Compile your own code. Look at it, and look at all the other code that other people are running. It's there, and that's what it is. Now, let's talk a little bit about scaling, because people create FUD around good news as well, and they rely on you not knowing or understanding the technology. And I can't expect everybody to understand the technology, but let me tell you a little bit about what to expect. And we are in the beginning stages of showing the world how to scale horizontally. Lots of people tried before us. Lots of people are still trying even as we speak. There are events that are upcoming that are trying to take other chains to where we were about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Okay, so we are far ahead of our competition. And so you are going to see things in Avalanche that the world, the crypto universe has not encountered yet. And so you need to be prepared for this, because otherwise people will run FUD attacks on you as that happens. So here is the simplest thing that you will see. You will see fees drop. When a system can increase its throughput and yet the fees go down, such a system is set to scale. Or let me say it differently. If performance remains the same or increases while the costs drop, that is, costs and performance are decoupled from each other, then such a system scales. It's as simple as that. Scalability is just essentially the relationship between a cost metric and a performance metric. And if the two are decoupled from each other, you scale. That's it. So if I can improve my throughput without increasing my fees, without taking a hit somewhere, without increasing my latencies, then I have built a system that scales. It's the golden thing that everybody is trying to do. You know what? I and everybody else who works on Avalanche built a system that scales. Everybody else is going to now very slowly going to be copying us. You already saw super subnets from other competitors. They're just announcement machines. They just announce things. They don't know how to build. Their actual chain goes backwards. And we are there building a system that actually scales. So when it scales today, right now, you will see that despite increase in activity, fees are dropping down. And so that's the first thing to notice. And that's exactly what we see. This is the aggregate throughput of the Avalanche system. Of course, when we talk about a system whose architecture is multi-chain, then we have to look at the aggregate throughput, and that's what we see over here. And you can see that the Swimmer network, the DeFi Kingdoms network, they have their own load on their own chain. That chain is decoupled from the mainnet. And as a result, the C chain usage has dropped down immensely. It costs about 5 cents to send Avalanche to anyone on Earth. I can send $1 billion if I had it, if I could print it. I could send $1 billion to anyone on Earth for 5 cents right now on the C chain or on the X chain. So that's a great situation to be in. It's something to be proud of. It's not something to get fudded about or to get concerned about. And remember those like graphs? I think Kevin was posting these things. All of you were concerned when fees went up. You remember you were all concerned at some point, and I said, hey, we're going to address this. And in a few weeks, we came up with optimizations to the C chain that reduced the fee usage. That did happen. I think it happened maybe multiple times. And then I said, look, we're going to reduce it fundamentally by scaling horizontally with subnets. And that's exactly what we're living through. The first few subnets, the transition to them, are going to expose new things, new ways of thinking. We'll have to look at the world a little differently. So metrics that you were tracking, you might have to track slightly different metrics for a system that scales like no other. So in Ethereum, for example, you look at the main chain. There's only one chain. You look at that chain. And you could be tempted to do the same thing on Avalanche, but Avalanche is a multi-chain system. If Ethereum ever does its full vision and goes to a sharded proof of stake network, then you can't just look at one of its shards and say, well, that's its throughput. That would be ridiculous. Everybody who's trying to do the same thing to us would actually go and defend themselves. So it's a very funny world. We're getting a bunch of misinformation thrown at our community. Our community is young, and some people get skittish. This will happen. This is crypto. People will do this. People have already thrown all kinds of bizarre, misleading statements at us, at me personally. There was even some idiot who went so far as to claim that I was a member of a terrorist organization. And he's trying to retract it right now and walk it back. But he's got something coming to him in the form of a lawsuit. So it's a very, very funny world. He made a bunch of people sell AVAX, for example, and it caused a measurable dip in our price back then. So don't get fudded by these people, and if you're going to get fudded, at least get fudded by something that's sensible, or at least, has some basis in some merit or whatsoever. None of these things have any merit. The system is working exactly as intended. So, so this is the little graph of fees, the gas prices on Avalanche. Ever since we started the first 2 subnets, the C chain gas price has been incredibly low, about 5 cents for a transfer, 11 cents for a Trader Joe swap. Remember how Ethereum under load was charging Uniswap. Under load was charging Uniswap on Ethereum was charging $500. I think $550 was the max that I heard from a friend. And that's a lot of money for a swap. It should be something a lot lower than that. So you, with your transaction, should not have to bear the cost of that load across the network. And it's only 11 cents for a Trader Joe swap right now. Expect this to follow the following trajectory. So first of all, there might still be events on the C chain that are really, really popular, and they cause spikes. You have to have spikes. If you don't have spikes, you will have outages. And there are chains that consistently and routinely and frequently have outages. We designed our system from the get-go because this is the one chain where the people in charge know what they're doing. I shouldn't say that. Maybe not the one chain, but one of the few chains where the people who are building it know what they're doing, and we built in the right dynamics into the system. So you will see occasional spikes, but the spikes should be only lived for the duration of a congestion. And when the congestion ends, the fees should go back to their low levels. And when a new thing comes on that's creating consistent congestion, expect them to want to move to their own subnet. And when they do, we will go back to these levels again. So this is going to be a consistent thing. Low fees will attract builders. Low fees will attract people who build demanding applications. Demanding applications will bring more users. Those users create congestion, and these things move to their own subnet, and rinse and repeat this over and over again. So we're going to be in this cycle for a while. It's going to be fantastic. I am sick and tired of arguing with people about the different ways to scale blockchains. They don't know, and they get tripped up in their own wrong frameworks. And it's very, very hard for me to try to educate the world all at once. I've done this repeatedly. Even basic things the world did not understand. They didn't even understand the difference between Sybil control mechanisms and consensus protocols. Those very same people who don't understand that are trying to tell you all about how to build blockchains. I was the one, as far as I can tell, there isn't a single person before me who went out and said, look, these two things are separate. Even academics in reviews and so forth, I could see that they did not understand, that they thought proof of stake was its own consensus protocol. It's a sad world we live in. I've done this a bunch of times, but I can't do this for all of the world all at the same time. And in a bear market, people will throw all sorts of stuff at you. So they'll say all sorts of things. Just don't. I don't know. You do what you want, but try to make sure that there's some merit to these criticisms. So then there's, of course, this whole thing about, it's like Avalanche doesn't work because the fees are so high, and then we bring them down. And then they're like, oh, look, Avalanche has no usage because the fees are down. No, Avalanche has a hell of a lot of usage, and it tracks exactly the same kinds of monthly active users that are happening across the industry. And so the chains are doing incredibly well, and we have proven to the world that subnets are a great way to scale. So come September, my goal is to have enough subnets that I just don't have to even explain anything to these people anymore. It's just, they can say blah, 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 whatever it is that they say, shared security, this is our side chains, whatever they say, it doesn't matter. Okay. What you want at the end of the day is security, reliability, and performance. That's what we've delivered. It's as simple as that. If you want those three things, where else are you going to go? I'll wait. And I want to hear from you. You can go to a centralized solution. You can run something on someone's laptop. You're not going to get the security and reliability then. You can go to another chain that uses proof of work, not going to get performance. You can go to different proof of stake systems, and not a single one compares in decentralization, compares in reliability. And so that's where we are today. This is a chain that works. It's reliable, it's secure, it's decentralized, and it performs incredibly well. It performed incredibly well through various high congestion events, through market downturns that put a lot of strain on the chain. Now, let's talk a little bit about value creation, because the next thing that people get freaked out about is, well, what's going to happen? How are you going to capture value? If the fees are so low, then who's going to consume my tokens and Okay, look, listen. I told you guys, I told the whole world many years ago that Avalanche consensus was going to be fast. And most of you did not believe me until it was deployed. I ended up having to sell Avalanche tokens at like 50 cents. People didn't understand that this was groundbreaking. If you read the white paper, it was so obvious. So freaking obvious. And yet most people didn't get it. They need tangible proof. And that's exactly what I had to deliver, and that's what we did. I told you that Avalanche subnets were going to reduce fees. That's exactly what they did. They scale horizontally. We showed the world how to build horizontally scalable solutions. And it's an elegant solution to boot. It provides a uniform API to a blockchain. It's not disparate L2s. There are no centralized components in the subnet architecture. There isn't a single entity that's consuming all of the MEV. That's not inherent to the architecture. And there are many other architectures that actually end up having centralized components that people work really, really hard to reinvent the world as we know it. They end up putting somebody in charge of all MEV extraction. So it's not one of them. So, and it's compatible with an L2 vision. If you really believe the L2 vision is going to work just as well, L2s are going to work as well or better on Avalanche than they will on any other chain. So I kept telling you all this. Now I'm going to tell you one more thing. Believe it or not, Avalanche has very strong tokenomics. Okay? You're not going to see this with a single subnet. You're not going to see this with two subnets. But at scale, you're going to see something amazing. That's what we're designing for. That's what we're building for. So what is that thing that's amazing? It's a new paradigm in value extraction. And one of my concerns is that there might indeed be a supply side crunch when we go to scale blockchains. So this is what Kevin's tweet thread is actually saying here. The Avalanche architectural model is designed for horizontal scaling, while continuously forcing new validators to decentralize and further secure the C chain. The end result is that there's a continuous feedback loop of staking. That's exactly right. So validating a subnet requires validating the C chain. You got to be part of both. There's a limit to how many subnets each validator can run. Right? So as a validator, you can only be part of so many networks before you run into your resource limits. And there is a 2,000 AVAX minimum to validate the C chain. And so as a result, what every delegator has to do is tie down substantial amount of AVAX. As we have more and more subnets, and as those subnets scale up the number of validators that they have, then there is going to be a huge demand on Avalanche, on AVAX tokens. So Kevin has a whole thread about this. He goes through it and explains it. Whether or not, a lot of these subnets will use the AVAX as a gas token because it's the obvious thing to use. Everybody on the Avalanche network in the ecosystem has AVAX. So there is no cumbersome initial step to get to use a subnet. So there's a slight incentive to use AVAX as a gas token, but they don't have to. And if they don't, that's fine too. Either way, there is going to be demand created for AVAX. In addition to all of this that Kevin explains over here, all of these subnets that use their own token, they need liquidity pools, and they end up having to tie down substantial AVAX in those pools as well. So Kevin is right to be worried about supply shock in the future, and as am I, actually. So we're gonna have to. That's my worry, and so it's really funny to me that as I sit here and I'm worried about one set of issues, somehow there are people who are like, "Whoa, what are you going to do? The fees dropped." It's kind of like, look, we built something nice, and so it's kind of like saying, "Hey, you as a company, you did you gave a free item to someone, you just lost money." No, we did not. We're showing the world exactly how these systems work. And sure, if you look at one single thing in isolation, if you look at something in its very earliest days, you're going to see something. Whichever company, the company that gave me a free biscuit at the supermarket, they lost money on that biscuit. But, they made me buy it 2 days later. Okay, so that's how this works. We show the world how well subnets work, and it's undeniable how they work. Now, compare that with dreams. How well do dreams work? Well, they work really well in theory because it's a dream. It has no faults, but it doesn't exist. Okay? So people who really want to build, the builders who really need low fee transactions, they're coming to us. They're coming to us from all sorts of other ecosystems, and they're coming to us from all sorts of sources. So there is something that works. It shows the world that it works. And the very first one is going to reduce the fees quite a bit. Second one, even more. That's fantastic. And at scale, the tokenomics are there for this thing to consume substantial coins. So you remember that Avalanche is capped supply, and even CoinMarketCap, if you go to it, it reflects that number. Go to coinmarketcap.com, look up Avalanche. As of yesterday, it shows that the limit is 720 million, and it's just a website. It doesn't matter what it says, but it says the right thing now, and I cannot believe that there was FUD all around this. Anyhow, now I think I hope you understand that there is the tokenomics are sensible, and there's going to be some value creation. So what's new with Avalanche? Let's go on to more happy topics. Let's talk about what's new with Avalanche. So one of the big exciting things was the Avalanche bridge hitting 50 billion. I don't know what the heck this is. What is this? I think this is is this one of the subnets? No. What is this? I have no idea what this is. Okay, well, ooh, the bridge. That's right. I don't know who prepared this. Oh yeah. Okay. I had not seen this video before. That's our bridge. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, That's weird, but it is what it is. Avalanche Bridge hit 50 billion in assets transferred. These are insane numbers. We built something incredibly valuable. We had an enormous number of people using it. The Avalanche Bridge is by far the cheapest bridge. It's by far the fastest bridge, and it's by far the nicest to use bridge. There is none other that's better than it. And you might wonder why. I'll tell you why. Because it uses a different technology than everyone else. It uses SGX, Intel's SGX extensions, which ensure that the bridge code operates in a special enclave present on Intel chips, such that it cannot be molested. Even the person who's running the bridge cannot look at what the bridge is doing. So they cannot possibly see what it's doing. They cannot possibly interfere with what it's doing. They cannot touch the funds that are inside the bridge. So that's an amazing construction. Prior to us, nobody had built a bridge like that. We were the first ones to bring this new technology to blockchains. This built on many years of research I had done in this area going back to 2004 or so. I had worked on operating systems that use these secure components, built a whole operating system called Nexus OS with a logic system in it, with a whole bunch of cool stuff in it, actually. Those were great days. Of course, those are research operating systems, but we learned a lot from them, and I was in a unique position to show to the world that these components, that back then in 2004, they were external components outside the chip. They were separate chips on the motherboard. Now they've been subsumed into the CPU. They're an integral part of the chips that Intel builds. And it's a wonderful feature to have in that anyone can now download some code into an enclave, and other remote parties can query what a remote party is executing and have assurance that that execution will happen with integrity. That is, it cannot be molested. People cannot jump. They cannot hack the code, and with confidentiality. That is, even the person who's sitting on top of that chip doesn't see the memory contents of the computation. All of the memory contents are encrypted by the chip, and integrity is guaranteed by a process called attestation. You can ask a remote entity and say, hey, what's the hash of the code that you're executing? And it reports back an unforgeable value of the hash inside the enclave. If you hack the code, and the hash will come back as something different, and you know not to trust it. So the Avalanche Bridge uses this technology, and we have a lot of other cool things happening at Ava Labs that I cannot share with you right now, but they're also using this technology to build a lot of really exciting tools on top of the Avalanche blockchain. So we got a lot of cool stuff going. I think we did a great job with this one in the sense that we introduced something to the crypto space that they had no idea about. We were the first ones to do it. Clearly, the UI, the user experience around it, was also, at least in my opinion, every time I used it was pretty nice. I hope you guys had the same experience. I know a lot of people love the bridge, and compared to everyone else's bridge, it's just so much faster, so much more reliable. So, so that's what happened there. We hit the 50B mark. It's a huge number. It's a number I never thought we would reach. So it's fantastic to see. But now I can't wait to reach, I don't know what the next milestone ought to be. Maybe 100B. We do a little bit of a celebration at 100B, and then we do another one at 500. So let's go see how long that takes. I cannot wait. So it took less than a year to reach 50B. So in less than a year, we should reach 100, I hope. And then we see what happens after that. No, not this. No, not this crazy video. Okay, next slide. Okay. Ooh, ApeCoin proposal. So I can't keep my ApeCoins and monkey things and so forth straight. There's an exciting proposal in front of the ApeCoin DAO to build a subnet for the apes. So the apes are currently on Ethereum. And so this is one of the reasons why the Ethereum maximalists are very, very upset at us, because clearly, they see that we are able to do things that they cannot do. They keep giving me a hard time with their dreams. They keep comparing my reality to their dream world. I would love to be able to compare my reality to whatever they have built, but that seems to be taking a while to come. So in any case, so they get upset when you go to an existing system and say, hey, you guys need low fees and you need to shield yourself from fee activity on your chains. And And in a similar way, you don't want to impact the chain you're on. You don't want to drive the fees up for other people. That only gets people upset at you. And so, and there's one additional thing. Wouldn't you like to have your coin serve more functionality than whatever it is doing right now? So one of the things you can do with an Avalanche subnet is use your coin for gas and use your coin for staking. So these dynamics are very much in favor of a builder. So it allows the ApeCoin to be tied down for validating the ApeCoin subnet. And I think this would be a fantastic improvement for ApeCoin. It improves their regulatory stance. Clearly, the coin has utility. It improves their it improves the actual utility of the coin, and it most importantly, it improves the user experience. The users get to see a super fast chain with very quick finality. So I think, and if you compare this to any other solution, when after the merge, finality on Ethereum is going to improve from whatever it is now. I think it's in the it's in the high double-digit minutes to 12.8 minutes. This is I had a chat with Vitalik a few days ago, and it's 64 slots, and slots are however long they are. You do the multiplication, you get 12.8 minutes. So in comparison, on Avalanche, finality is within a second to 2 seconds. So I'd like to be able to send my ape. I want you to see it. I want you to receive it immediately. There should be no delay. You shouldn't have to trust me for those 12 minutes. You should just receive it. It should be yours. This is simple, straightforward. And from the get-go, we designed a super fast blockchain, super fast protocol. And it would really improve the user experience. It would improve the builders' lives. It would improve their regulatory stance. I think it's just a win-win-win from every direction. It would also improve the lives of people who are not using, who have nothing to do with the apes. So it's a fun world. I encourage them to think, strongly about this proposal, and we would be delighted to help. And the nice thing is, the tooling required between the Ethereum and the Avalanche worlds is the same tooling. So it's the same set of people can easily cross over and easily use this new network, this new subnet, and they wouldn't have to install any new code. So the user experience is a huge plus as well. And I think this is my tweet thread. This ApeCoin community is a tour de force. That's right. It's got a lot of passion, and it also has, because of that passion and excitement, it has the ability to overwhelm a network, and it's outgrowing the network it was launched on. It's high time for it to think about building its own network, and building your own is very, very difficult. And we have now a track record of subnets that are successfully launched and supporting substantial load. Oh, I should mention this. I think the DeFi Kingdom subnet ended up doing more transactions per second than Ethereum in the initial phases when it was very popular. So we can handle a lot of load. Imagine you could have all of Ethereum's capacity to yourself plus more. So that's what a subnet would give you in terms of performance, in terms of capacity. So this is the tech we've built, and I cannot wait for people to catch up to where we are. One thing I should say, so in math, there's such a thing as an inductive proof. It starts out by showing that some base case is true. You show it that f of 1 is like, it has a form that you like. And then you say, well, not only is f of 1 good, but f of 2 extends this. And in fact, f of x plus 1 is as good as f of x. And if you do that, then you've proven whatever you want to prove for all f of, for all x, for f of x, for x equals, everything to infinity. So that's in math. I found that humans don't work this way. If they see one instance, they go, that's interesting, and then that's about it. They stop, and they're like, maybe it's a fluke. If they see two, then they're kind of intrigued, and the smart ones, they catch on, and and the smart ones that are invested in other chains are the ones that are creating all this FUD for us. But for most people, it really takes 3. I don't understand why the inductive proofs involving people really require you have to show f of 1, it has the right form, f of 2 has the right properties, f of 3, it also has the right properties. And they're like, okay, I don't need to see more. That's about enough. And I get the point now. So give us some time to build a couple more subnets, and after that, it's going to be a different ball game. I'm sick and tired of the retrograde discussions on crypto Twitter. I don't engage in them anymore. In fact, my whole team has been given the instruction not to engage in these debates. A lot of the people that we have to engage in. A lot of the people that are just creating noise on Twitter, they don't know what they're talking about. And they have the wrong framework that led them to a bad solution. So it's really tough to try to clue them in, because you have to say, look, you're trying to do something. It's just not desirable, right? So the best way to do this is to say, hey, you do your thing. It's great. I hope that someday you reach your aims and dreams and hopes. And we have something here that has slightly different goals, perhaps, or a different mechanism for getting to the same goals, and it works. So that's exactly what we're doing with subnets. So let's see. This is sort of the ApeCoin discussion. They might choose to do this. They might not. Who knows? It's up to them. But if they do, it's going to be much better for them. That's clear. Okay. There's another big release that came out in Avalanche. Let me just take a sip of my tea. Ever since I had that flu, my voice is cracked even more than it has been. So we have a new software release. So this is 1.7.11. It does state sync much faster. It used to be, as time goes on, the blockchain size grows, and the time to bring up a new node will grow. That's normal. The time to bring it up and validate the whole lot grows. And that sync time for 1.7.10 for Avalanche was reaching slightly over 7 days on the machine that I tested this on. So with this release, it goes down to 20 hours, 24 hours or so, about a day, 7x improvement. With the next release, it's going to go down even more substantially than that. So we're improving this. Why are we doing this? Because we want it to be a lot easier to bring up new subnets. I want people to just say, hey, I want to sync up, and bring it up in 8 hours, then they're ready to go. And this would be really fantastic. I mean, it already is fantastic. 24 hours is great. It's just 1 day. The next 2 releases are going to take it down even further. And this is important. There are many chains that are so big that you can't realistically validate the past history. And there are some chains that are so big that a lot of nodes just come up without validating anything. So we're very proud of the speed up here, and we're going to increase this even more. And there's, of course, a lot of other changes coming down the pipeline as well. So, okay, let's see. There's one other thing, I guess, that I wanted to mention today, and that is increased partnerships and increased support around the crypto ecosystem. Very, very, very proud of our collaboration with Coinbase. One of the first fruits of that collaboration is support for Avalanche, for AVAX on the Coinbase wallet. So that's nice to have. I don't know if this is not an active video. So they have this nice blog post about this, and it's really good to see Coinbase focusing on L1s that are deserving, L1s that bring something new to the space, and just very much looking forward to more fruits from this collaboration. There's a lot of exciting things happening there, as well as in Avalanche. So that's roughly it. I kind of rushed through the discussion here, but yeah. So one of the questions I get is, of course, what's happening with the price action? In general, I pay no attention to price. It is what it is, and it'll go up, it'll go down. Just about every coin went through these cycles. Ethereum was off, as I said, went from $1,200 to $83. Bitcoin went from, again, 1,200 down to 200 or whatever it did. So coins will do that. The market will do that. There are all sorts of conditions that are outside of our control. And sort of looking at where we are from all-time highs, Avalanche is in tandem with Solana and other coins that launched around us. So, the market will go up, market will go down, and So I'm getting some people are saying, do something about the price. So we can't manipulate the price. It's like there isn't enough money to do it with, let alone the fact that it's illegal to do that. So don't write to me to write telling me to do stuff about things that I obviously cannot touch. And also, that's not how you manipulate the price. There's one good way of manipulating your price, and that is build new stuff, offer compelling value, do things other people cannot do. That's how you build your community. That's how you build your system. That's exactly what we're all concentrated on. And I love bear markets. We launched in a bear market. I did a lot of fundraising in a bear market. It was hard as hell. All these people who are like, oh, crypto this, crypto that, crypto thought leaders. I don't know what a thought leader is. These people who've never done anything. They seem really convinced. They seem really convicted. And they act like they were early to every scene. They weren't. I was there. I knew them. I've been in this space since 2002, 2003, right, before Bitcoin. So I knew all these people, and they weren't early, and they're not convinced. In a bear market, they disappear. But in a bear market, people like me are here to build, and we're delivering. We're one of the few teams that is actually delivering. We have code, we have working systems. Most importantly, we bring new science to this world. Not just new nomenclature, not a whole bunch of fancy terminology, not a whole bunch of navel-gazing on crypto Twitter, but actual working products. You saw the platform. The platform horizontally scales. That was the goal that everybody was trying to reach. You saw the bridge, brought something new. Nobody else has anything remotely similar at the moment. And expect much more from us. Core wallet is coming. That's going to drastically change the way we interact with blockchains. And after that, there are more products to come from Avalabs. So I'm working on a whole bunch of them. I am excited. I know about other teams that are working exciting things on top of Avalanche. And together, we're going to live through a whole bunch of market ups and downs. There will be many of them to come. Life is long, and these market ups and downs, they happen. People get exuberant, and then something happens at the macro level. They end up pulling back, and people come into assets, they leave assets, etc. They do what they do. That's going to happen. The right thing to do is to keep your eyes on the long game. The people who are here, the projects that persevere, the systems that remain are the systems where there is a core team of highly convinced, convicted, highly dedicated people with unique abilities who are actually building that system. As long as you have that, those are the networks, those are the systems that persevere and find traction. We are here, and we're going to be here through ups and downs and so forth. And we have nothing in common with any of the coins that failed recently. So Luna had a crash. We have nothing in common in how we work. Absolutely nothing in common. As you already saw, that the hard cap is in the code. I don't know what kinds of misconceptions people have. Luna was a 2-coin system. We're not a 2-coin system. The discrepancies are huge. People will come to you and will say all sorts of things, and we have nothing to do with any of that FUD. So Phantom, the core devs disappeared. They weren't convicted enough in their own creation. We are here to build with you. We are here to build for you as one of the architects in the system. And we are here to together create a beautiful, gorgeous ecosystem that can do what other people are dreaming of. So with that, I'm going to go to the Cornell graduation. It's a 3-day weekend this weekend, and I have 2 students who just got their PhDs. So later this evening, I'm going to be putting the hood on 2 bright, young, super energetic, super smart people that I had the pleasure and the privilege to work with. I'm really excited about that. If they are listening, hello to them. I cannot wait to do that. It's a 3-day weekend in the US. I hope you enjoy the long weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care.